Hello, everybody. Hey, this is D Will with 12 More Keys with another episode of Chop Talk. Now, just in case you didn't know what Chop Talk is, it's where we sit down with musicians, singers, and producers and we just explore their music journey. And today we got another special episode that you do not want to miss. This one might be legendary right here. This young man owns his own record company. Yes. So before we get into this, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of the interviews that we got coming up. Now, with that being said, come on, let's chop it up. Dorohn, play that keyboard, Dorohn.
This is how I fight my battle.
When the enemy's closing in,
This is how I fight my battles.
while I don't guarantees I'll win,
This is how I fight my battles.
I want everyone to know.
This is how I fight my battles.
This is how I fight my battles.
Going down on my knees,
This is how I fight my battles.
knowing you hear my every
Oh, this is how I fight my
This
battles.
is how I fight my battles. This is how I fight
This
my
is how I
battles.
fight my battles.
This is how I fight my battles.
Hey, everybody, this is Darren Williams with 12 More Keys. And today on the line, I have a good friend, a good young brother that I've been knowing for so long. Actually, I've been knowing him since he was a baby. So, yeah. So we've been knowing each other quite a while. But this young man is one of the most outstanding musicians, producers out there on the market right now. So, everybody, this is Dorohn Goff. Give it up for him, man.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure and a privilege to be on this show with you.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Just a lot of years, in
Yeah.
relationship on this line right now.
Yeah.
And so when you reached out, when you called me, I had to make time to be able to do this, and so it's an
Appreciate
honor
that.
for me to be here.
Oh, appreciate that, bro. Appreciate that. Well, I'm excited because based on our conversation, I already know, some of the people that you've worked with and all of that. But before we get to all of that, I always like to ask, how did your music journey even get started? So where did you when did you ever start getting into music?
Yeah, man. Well, as you know, it's something that I really I didn't choose, but it rather chose me. Me growing up in the business because the music business and music entertainment business because of who my father is and was.
Mhm.
David L. Goff, the founder and visionary of the International Gospel Music Hall of Fame Museum. Of
Right.
course, the day I was born was the day a record label was named after me, Dorohn Records, and then eventually Dorohn Entertainment. So that's literally all that I knew, all that I saw.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, needless to say, I mean, it really came from being around him and my family, obviously being a musical family, and just church or what have you, which of course
Right.
that's where you and I connect.
Right.
Our stories intertwined because my grandfather was a pastor and a bishop eventually in the Church of God in Christ, and
Right.
just growing up in that entire thing. I think specifically in my household was very interesting growing up because uh, my mother was a PK, uh,
Mm.
and so obviously gospel music was heavily and prevalent in our household. But then
Right.
my dad was not a PK. He was
Okay.
he was just a lover of music. And
Right. Right.
so just so happens that of course he was a gospel artist, but literally his love for music superseded the grounds of gospel. And so there was a radio station back in the day in Detroit
Mm-hmm.
that existed called 97.1 Joy FM. It was the
Yes.
easy listening station. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
so growing up, that's the thing that it was always prevalent. Either I was going to hear the best of the Winans, BB and CC,
Mm-hmm.
or Thomas Whitfield and the
Right.
Clark
Oh yeah.
sisters, or
Right.
things that was came up, or Milton Bronson, the Thompson Community Choir, what have
Right.
you. Or I was going to be listening to this big melting pot of secular music that ranged from anywhere that was playing Frank Sinatra to all the way to the hottest record at that time, which was Thriller, Michael Jackson, everything in between,
Right.
to Kenny Rogers, through the years, or
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know, don't make my brown eyes blue by Anne Murray or whoever. It was
Mm-hmm.
just one of those things where Through the Fire, Shaka Khan, David
Mm-hmm.
Foster, and as I'm listening to all this music, I was the kid that had a great imagination. I was the one, even though I started playing drums when I was 2, I was already always
Mm-hmm.
acting like I was uh, the person that was playing the keyboards in the band, sitting in the back seat, or acting like I was the conductor of the string orchestra. I was just always had a big imagination of
Mm-hmm.
just kind of being the one that was, if I had to direct the orchestra, I got to turn my back to the crowd. So I was always in my own world.
Oh,
And
okay.
then, of course, obviously, coming up in church, always having these, emotional core structures that I was just always drawn to
Mm-hmm.
as a child. Because, on Sesame Street, I didn't know it while I was, they would have these different scenes of fish swimming through water or the flowers growing. They were playing this music called Brazilian Bossa Nova that I didn't know at the time
Oh, okay. Okay.
was Brazilian Bossa Nova, but I just knew that it did something to me. Like
Oh, okay.
I would be sitting in front of TV just looking and gazing, but not understanding that the music was the thing that was attracting me. So,
Okay.
of course, obviously, Thomas Whitfield, who used to come to our church from time to time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, Rudolph Stanfield,
Oh yeah.
growing in the gospel world, what have you. But
Mm-hmm.
then I had people like my older brother Damon and you.
Right.
So, like, a lot of times I didn't have access to the Thomas Whitfields or Rudolph Stansfield. Sometimes, whatever, I would be around them, but I wouldn't be around them long enough for them to show me anything.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
you guys were the one that would literally took time to show me, okay, this is what they're doing. Like,
Oh, okay.
and so that's why I said on our email chain when we were talking, so I had great teachers. Like, I had great teachers that were not selfish. And
Appreciate that.
that's not to even take away, because Rudolph Stanfield, he was a great mentor.
Oh,
He
absolutely.
he started showing me things or what have you,
Mm-hmm.
when I asked him.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
you know what I mean. But then it got to a point to where, well, to answer your question, yes, that was the spark of the love that I have for music, and
Gotcha.
really started from just me being a child and just always being attracted to great music.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then later on in life, you got to there are some people that you actually got a chance to mentor you after that. Uh, some the
Yes,
heavy hitters, I call them.
yes, yes. So again, because of my father uh, owning his own studio, he had his own conglomerate, and he was always, just wanted to create a space in Detroit. He was
Hmm.
motivated by Berry Gordy, obviously, and the spirit of Motown, and he wanted a place to where just creatives could always be able to come and create. And I'll never forget the day he told me that that Valdez was going to be coming to our studio. It was like Darren. It was like that day, and I was in college. We was at Eastern Michigan University at this time, and he said Valdez was going to be producing his next project, and so it was as if he told me that Babyface and Teddy Riley was coming. Like you could poke me with a pen, and I found out when he was going to be there. I made sure I didn't care if I had class or not. I was going to be down in Detroit that week.
Yes, sir.
To make sure, because obviously, if anyone knows these names of Kern Brantley and his brother Valdez Brantley, they have been the rulers of the live production show aspect for secular music for over like 30 years or so.
I didn't know it was that long. Wow.
Yeah, close to 40 years. And so Val had just gotten off the road at that time with Mary J. Blige. And he hadn't even received the call from Jermaine Dupri yet concerning Usher, which of course he was with Usher for 26 years.
Right. Yeah.
So, and I was with him on the day that he got the call from Jermaine Dupri concerning that. But needless to say, back to the beginning of it, the day he was supposed to be there, I made sure I was there. And my brother Damon came and got me and says, "Hey, Valdez and Kern is in the control room." I got my pad, my pencil. I went and marched in that control room. And it was funny. I actually just said, "Hey, Kern, what's going on?" And my attention went straight to Valdez. You have to understand, I didn't play bass. I knew Kern was a phenomenal bass player, but for me personally, and so this is what I said to him. I says, as an aspiring keyboard player and music producer, I said it would do me a great honor and privilege for you to autograph my book. And so he looked at me. He said, "Yo, kid, put that book away, man. We're gonna be straight." And from that point on, the next 10 years of my life was changed. He took me under his wing, and he really meant what he said. Like, he really took time and showed me the do's and don'ts of the music industry, and not just, inviting me into his house, not just into his personal studio, not just allowing me to get sounds from him, allowing me to get keyboard modules or keyboards, or let me know the right keyboards to invest in. But he also opened opportunities for me. My very first gig, major gig as a professional musician, I was still in college in 1999. It was Whitney Houston's last world tour.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. And I was the keyboard player on that tour for a group called 112 that was signed to Diddy's Bad Boy label at the time. And I did that for about 2 months. And of course, gig with the great Gerald Hayward, just Luke Austin. I mean, I was privy to and literally raised by wolves. This was my first time along with Kern and Valdez. I mean, it was just phenomenal. And that was the summer of that 99 that I said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Like, I want to be in the music and entertainment industry. And of course, I finished college from Eastern in 2004. Ended up getting married in 2003 to my wife, Sharita. And then 2006, there was by that time it was a new wave of artists that was starting to hit the scene. Rihanna, Neo, Chris Brown. And so that's with Chris Brown in 2006, I had the opportunity to serve as a keyboard player in his band. Still, opportunities were being afforded to me by Kern and Valdez, who was just gracious enough and felt like I could be able to hang with them. And so it was great. And then understanding the influence and the impact that they have made just over a lot of different musicians' lives. I mean, you know this. I mean, they've given so many people in Detroit alone, not to mention all over the world. And and so, but that was the start of that. And they literally, both of them, Kern and Valdez, was almost like another level of foundation, aside from the foundation that my father had already had laid for me, to be able to go. And I'll never forget, my dad pulled Val in the office and he says, "Man, just take care of my boy. Just take care of him. Look out for him." And because my dad knew. My dad knew.
Right.
Says, I know this is something that he needs to do. He needs this, and it just so happens that it was because of that release that I was able to eventually, from that point on, from Chris Brown touring with him, and then we became the one band for a co-headlining tour called the Up Close and Personal tour,
Okay.
with Chris Brown and Neo.
Right.
And then when myself and Neo became acquainted, he learned I was a producer, and so he wanted to hear some tracks or what have you. And I started traveling with him on the road as a musician, but I kept giving CDs to him of tracks that I was doing, and he kept losing it. Like, over the last 6 or 7 months of us traveling, he's constantly losing CD. And so I'll never forget, we was at the Jay Leno show. There's Jay Leno, of course, if anybody is listening to this, Jay Leno is the old school Jimmy Kimmel of today. So,
right. Oh yeah, right.
Exactly. I remember the time.
Right.
And so we was on the set of Jay Leno on the Universal Studio grounds, and Neo asking for me another CD. And I said, man, and we're traveling all over the world by this point. I said, man, what's going on? Like, so he's eating, he's holding his fingers, says, wait. He says, listen, I went back to my management, asking for that CD, looked at me like a deer in headlights. He says, but it was this one that I was really feeling that I would want to be able to work with. And Darren, he hummed the melody of the actual track that I did, that he really wanted. And so I thought to myself, he's got to be serious, because this was 2006, 2007. Around this time, between 2006 all the way to 2012, Neil was probably, if not one of the hottest writers in the industry. Everybody's calling. So do you understand? You have to understand the amount of music that is coming across this guy's desk, and for him to actually remember the melody of the track, and I instantaneously knew what he was talking about. I said, he's got to be serious. So he says, look, here's my personal contact, here's my email and my number. Get everything directly to me. Don't go through nobody else. And I did. 2 weeks later, he gives me an email, and that's when I received the email saying, hey, I wrote a smash, the one I was talking about. Either Michael or Janet is going to do it. And so you remember that shot when Michael Jordan hit over Craig Elo with the Cleveland Cavaliers?
Yeah.
I had to do that entire reenact. My world was changed, because who do you know comes in from a producing aspect, and their very first placement is mentioned in those two names. And smoke clear that it was Janet Jackson that ended up. Michael and Janet was fighting over the record, and Janet won.
Wow.
That's how my music production career had literally took off. And of course, it's been a whirlwind, man. I've had just a great journey, and it's still going. Even, like 2 years prior to the pandemic, for the last 2 years prior to the pandemic hitting, I was working with David Foster, a big major artist that is in the Asian states. His name is JJ Lin. I was actually one of the producers of his show. And we helped pull that tour together. And of course, just even now I'm just in another world of still doing this whole entire music production at a different level. Of course, I've experienced Grammy nominations, and the record I'm probably most known for in the R&B pop world is this record we did in 2010 with Neo called Champagne Life, that is still kind of historically relevant, as if you will. And so just God's been blessing, man. But even now, so my schedule even now is just amazing. So I traveled to Times Square, New York. I've been hired in at a ministry here called Times Square Church. And I'm literally, my job description is that of like one of the co-MDs, but really more initial or intently is to build the sound design for the services. So I do a lot of the production, as far as, because it's a big operation here. And matter of fact, I'm actually in my office here in Times Square. It's overlooking look at Times Square window, see if I can actually turn this. I don't think I can turn it, but I'll turn it this way. You can kind of see the lights
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
everything that New York is.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
If you can see that. But no, but like literally, I spend 4 days out of my week here in New York, Times Square, and then 3 days back in Michigan.
Okay.
And this is what I do full time. Like I'm constantly producing. Matter of fact, we have a Christmas on Broadway featuring CeCe Winans that I have to kind of provide the underscore for and everything. So um, it's just amazing going back full circle. That kid that was acting like he was playing in the band and directing the orchestra has come full circle. And this is what we're doing.
Yes,
And
sir.
of course, overseeing my father's record label. Of course, my father had passed away in 2017. But when he passed away, before he passed away, he had directed everything over to me. And it was a blessing for him to, because I'll be honest, I didn't even want to be a president and CEO of a record label because I saw all of what he had to deal with.
Mhm.
And the core of it is people. And so,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
that whole jazz. So that is, but at the end of it all this is what I love. And I know this is why I'm here. And that's what we continue to do.
You know, and that's one of the things that when I look at, especially when I talk to musicians or producers and things like that, it's so like it's almost like a euphoria that you get to see somebody actually doing something that they want to do. Now, I mean, usually people just love music, but then they have to have other things that they have to be involved in because it's like, okay, I'm not making the money or I'm not doing
Yeah.
this or I'm not. And so, but it's not just about the money, it's about just the love of it. It's just like,
Yes.
I remember listening to Wanye from Boys to Men. It's like, man, we love this. I'm like, we'll do this for free.
Yes.
We don't have to, but we would do it for free because we love it, So,
Yeah.
and I, just listening to you, it just makes me think like it ain't just a job for you. It's something that you love. And I
Yes.
think that is so, so, so important for any producer or musician. You got to love what you do. And, it can't just be work. You know what I'm saying? So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Man,
yeah.
listen, it excites me every time when, I'll take, for example, I never will forget, and this just on a personal note,
Mm-hmm.
there was a song that BB&CC had did many years ago
Mm-hmm.
called Supposed to Be.
Yeah, I
And
remember that. Uh-huh.
I never will forget, because first of all, that song just always intrigued me. Keith Thomas is like
Oh,
amazing
yeah.
keyboard, amazing producer.
Uh-huh.
Like, and he would always hit these chords that would just pull at your heart. And then you started playing it at our church.
Right. I
And
don't
I
even
was
remember
like, oh,
that.
I said, you gotta show me that, and I was just so, and it was more than the fact that it was somebody that was on organ playing.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
was what you decided to play that always drew me.
Oh,
Like
okay.
you took the time to show me "I'm Encouraged" by Thomas
Oh,
Whitfield.
wow.
And when you were, and I never forgot this, man. I never forgot this.
Wow.
I know this is an interview, you interviewing me, but
Right.
I came on this show to tell you thank you so much, man, because I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for your passion and knowledge of wanting to understand different chord structures and understanding how to be able to set different atmospheres. Because I mean, if it wasn't for the others, and it was for yourself, I don't even know if I would have been able to even be interested. Others would be interested in me because of what I didn't know or chose to know. You know what I mean? So I just, I remember, you would tell me about Jeff Lober, and I was just seeking knowledge. I'm like, yo, Jeff Lober, like, and then he's being sampled by all these hip hop stars or what have you.
Wow.
So literally, like, but once again, it was the passion. Is the passion. And come to find out, these are the same names that I'm naming. This is all their stories. I mean, obviously the money came, but they never allowed the passion to be fizzled out.
Yeah.
And And so that's what I would say for anybody that may be watching this show, any young musician that are still coming up. Um, no matter what happens, you have to be extremely passionate. There will be times where things will happen that will not go your way, and you have to literally make a decision. Is this something that I really want to do? Even when you start getting success, and then you may have times where it's like no one's ringing your phone or what have you. Are you still going to be passionate enough to believe? Are you still going to be passionate enough to be a trendsetter? At that point, you may want to do something new. That is actually how Champagne Life came to be.
Wow.
I was already experiencing major placements. After the Janet thing, I did, a record with Day 26, which was signed to another Bad Boy, Diddy's Bad Boy group. It worked with Kim, worked with Mindless Behavior. But I got to a point to where, and I'll never forget this, Rihanna, this was when Chris Brown and Rihanna thing had taken place in 2009, where they were, fighting. And but when that happened, there and my business had kicked in, I said, "Oh, I need to get on one of these projects because
a song is coming."
yeah. And I was like, "That's gonna be big major record sales right there." so yes, I remember I worked my tail off to get on one of their projects, and I knew Neil had direct relationship because I was signed to Neil's record label for like 6 years. Compound Entertainment at that time, a subsidiary of Universal and Def Jam. So I knew I could be able to get on that project. And so I worked the next several months, I worked my tail off, and I wasn't selected for the Rihanna project. Matter of fact, Neo chose my other good friend, Chuck Harmony, to actually do the lead single, Rated R. And I was crushed. To the point to where I was sobbing tears and thinking about quitting. And my brother, my youngest brother, Devin, who's now my pastor, Pastor Devin tells me, he says, "Listen, you could either," it's like, "I know you hurt." He says, "You can either keep soaking up those tears, or you can make a decision, get back in the studio and show them they made a mistake." And I never will forget, I chose the latter. And I went back in the studio, and I remember going back in the studio. I said, "You know what, this time I'm not going to try to satisfy any rules or any, do's or don'ts when it comes down to production, because you want to make sure that people can relate to the music." I just started producing music that I wanted to hear on radio, or that music that felt good to me. I didn't make music for anybody else, but for me. And I did this track called Fabulous Life. I labeled it Fabulous Life. I said, it sounds special, but I didn't, it didn't sound like anything on radio at all. And but I just knew that this one's for me. So I'm good, just the fact that I created it. But at the same token, I'm still sending tracks out, and I'm just sending in bulks of stuff that as I'm creating stuff new along with stuff I already had, and I'm sending out. And Neo tells me in a rehearsal, it says, "I got one of the ones that you tracked, that Fabulous Life. Don't get that to nobody." I said, "Okay." Next thing I knew is I just started getting different industry people start calling me directly before the record was even released.
Wow.
It was making noise within the industry. Kerry Hilson was learning of this record. Chuck Harmony was telling me, "Yo, what is this I'm hearing? Like, everybody thinks Stargate doing this. Come back. Your name is actually attached to this track." And I hadn't even heard the record yet.
Wow.
So finally, I finally heard the record. I said, "Wow, this is about to happen." And then all of a sudden, L.A. Reid was in the discrepancy because he was trying to figure out what was going to be the next lead single between this record called Champagne Life and One in a Million, the urban single, after The Beautiful Monster was released on Neo's Libra Scale album in 2010. And quick story, Def Jam was at odds. Half of Def Jam felt like Champagne Life need to be the record, and the other half felt like One in a Million. And so we're saying One in a Million is safe. It sounds like what's on radio today. everybody's saying, well, with Champagne Life is new and it needs, y'all need to take a chance.
Mm-hmm.
They decided to go with 1 in a million for that Friday.
Okay.
And then when L.A. Reid came back in the office Monday, he says, you know what, I changed my mind. He says, let's not be safe. Let's go ahead and either win big or lose big. Whatever the case is, this record's not going to be ignored.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took a chance, and here we are, history, many years later.
Wow.
I'm thankful because somebody decided to take a chance.
Right. And they playing it instrumental and everything. Everybody's doing it.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, dude, that is awesome, dude. Now I got to ask you though. So, what song did Janet do? Which one was it?
Yes, it's a record called "Can't Be Good" that was
Okay.
on her Discipline album.
Okay. Okay.
Which was her 10th studio album at the time, and actually, it did very well. It was gone multi-platinum, and actually, somebody just did a tribute to that specific record, "Can't Be Good," because they were talking about how it reached the top 20 charts and Hot 100 charts as well as what have you, and they even tagged my name on it. So they were saying Janet legacy matters, and so does the legacy of all her collaborators. And so,
that's
but yeah, that was the name of that one. And like I said, it's a lot we've done over the years. I will say this, just a nice plug. We do have an artist that's on the Dorohn records. Obviously, her name is Deshandra, and she is phenomenal. Matter of fact, we're in the process now of releasing the second single to radio, which is called "Surrounded," featuring Margaret Winans. And yeah, and so which is a nice bridge, because anybody that's watching this, you'll find out first. Actually, myself and Bishop Marvin Winans, we're talking. I'll be possibly producing his next project coming up here in the next year. So
wow, that's what's up, Dorohn.
It's a lot going on, and it's like one thing always leads to another. We were in the studio with Bishop Winans, and he loved the sound, and that's where things that kind of sparked from that point on. And so, matter of fact, I was just in the studio with him again. I had nothing to do with the session. I just had to go to make sure he was okay, because he was being featured on the record, and he was telling me this, like, we got to get together. We got to get together. So that's something I'm very excited about, because as you know, that's full circle.
That's a legend too, man. I always tell people, and no offense to any other singers that may be watching, but that's just one of my favorite male singers. I mean, he's always just been, he knows exactly what to do with his voice. So
yes, yes. And I don't care what region you're from. Okay. As far as America is concerned, you name to me your Mount Rushmore of gospel. There can only be four. I guarantee you, no matter, and people will have many different lists. You will definitely, you cannot not consider him. Like,
absolutely.
Absolutely. That goes a long way, because his reach is very far, and his influence is impactful. So.
Man, Dorohn, I'm first of all, I'm even though you gave accolades to me and all that, appreciate all that, but I'm really humbled, man, just to be able to talk to you, because just when I hear about everything that's going on, and you always been just this real humble, you ain't braggadocious, you always, the way you move has always been like, it's all good. You don't take it like, oh, look what I'm doing. It's always been a humble way for you. And I know that's a testament to, your mom and dad and just your family. And, like I said, your brothers, we've been all friends. We've all been integrated together anyway.
Yeah.
Cousins, everybody. So
that's right. Spend night each other's houses.
Right.
Yes, sir.
So, man, but I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you taking out the time to, come on and chat with us. You gave us so much information, and just to be able just to sit back and just listen to you and all that you're doing, man, I'm excited, dude. I'm excited for you. I tell you all the time how proud I am of you. And I'm just, Anything other than Marvin? You got anything other than just coming in the future that you might be doing though?
Yeah, yeah. So like I shared before, I took over my father's company. When I did that in 2017, I decided I had to rethink the whole, not just record label, but I had to rethink the conglomerate because obviously, record labels and conglomerates in pre-pandemic and post-pandemic is very different than what it was.
Okay.
And so I kind of rethink that thing and really understand, why am I even doing this, or why even do this? And so once I figured that out, I started to make plans. So what I figured out was, I said, Dorohn Entertainment has been in the forefront for a lot of years. Dorohn Records, obviously, one of our biggest moments was when, under my dad's regime, when we was named top 5 independent gospel record labels in the world according to Billboard magazine.
Wow.
That was in the midst of Gospel Centric, Electra Records. I mean, Ty Scott. I mean, you just had all these, and we were right there in the midst, top 5 in the world in 2003. So we've experienced those from an independent standpoint, independent record label. I just knew that I had to rethink it. So my thoughts was, going into this new regime, was to really be more in the behind the scenes, almost kind of like, if you think about, think about it from from a business standpoint.
Okay.
And are very familiar with Heinz ketchup.
Mm-hmm.
You're very familiar with Dairy Queen and Fruit of the Looms. You're very familiar with Geico. All these big major brands that stand on their own. What you may not understand or even know is very well is that all of them had this one connection with a company called Berkshire Hathaway.
No,
Berkshire Hathaway is, of course, owned by Warren Buffett. And so that's what I really see Dorohn Entertainment being, is kind of being this conglomerate, and almost like the Oz, so to speak, Wizard of Oz. And
never seen them.
Never seen them, but always influencing,
right,
and creating brands to be able to be influencing. So that's why I know that what our purpose is. Like I told you, we're here in Times Square in New York, so where productions are going on all the time, and I haven't really made too much noise about it, not even on social media. I just started maybe within the last month and a half, and so, but we feel like we have a chance to do something extremely special.
Okay.
And then we created since I did take over my father's company, we created another company called Banji Entertainment. And Banji Entertainment is a lot of it's kind of like our way to service in the secular world. A lot of your corporate events and weddings and private events and bar mitzvahs. But I saw that as an opportunity as a record executive and as a producer, to be able to break new artists or develop new artists.
Okay.
And so we're kind of using that platform. It's kind of like our own personal American Idol, our own personal voice, if you will, and giving musicians and artists jobs. The cool thing about these markets is they make great money. The sad thing about it is their presentation was horrible. So we felt like we could be able to blow the dust off of an old model and give it new life. And it's taken off. It's been in existence for the last 6 years, and we're having a blast. Matter of fact, it's been in existence for the last 6 years, and I don't even have to be there now. It's actually working on its own.
That's awesome.
Constantly getting booked. We're constantly booking talent. Even right here in New York, either from bars to bars mitzvahs and everything in between. Money's still being circulated, but we're still using that stage as to see who's the next big thing that we could be able to break in mainstream pop. And so we're in that phase now. And so I just launched another record label called Banjay Records because I wanted to make sure that I didn't confuse the people, those that have followed Dorohn Records for all those years. I wanted to keep Dorohn Records gospel, CCM inspirational, whatever that world is,
Mm-hmm.
and then just kind of use this other platform, Banjay Records, for any other style of music, just as long as it feels good. It kind
Right.
of gives a chance to be impactful. So,
Man, that's awesome, dude. That's awesome, brother. That's awesome.
hey man, you knew my dad, so you
Oh
knew he
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
an innovator. So I
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I haven't fallen far from the tree.
Look, right. Your dad was inspirational to a lot of people, and that he bought me my real first suit. So, so
Wow, I didn't know
I
that.
never forget that, dude. It was like I was like, wow, that just blew me away. So yeah, so like I said, our family's been integrated for a while, so
Yes,
we
sir.
all know. But look, man, I appreciate you taking out the time once again. You know what? I'm gonna leave all your information down below. So if anybody
Sure.
want to get in contact with you, they
Yeah,
can have all the information. And Dorohn, once again, brother, I thank you. I appreciate you. Keep doing what you're doing. God has blessed you and your family, man. And I,
thank you.
once again, like I tell you all the time, every time I see you, I'm so proud of you, man. So
Thank
keep
you,
it up,
man.
man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Darren. I love you,
Yeah.
man. You already
Love you
know
too,
that.
brother.
Anytime you need anything, just give me a call, buddy.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
All right. Talk to you
A-
soon, buddy.
All right, take care.
All right. You too.